Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of Peak Performers Podcast. This is episode number 10. Action, massive action. This is step number 6 out of 7 of the ultimate success map. If you're anything like me, I hate following directions. Just tell me what the outcome is. Just tell me what the answer is. I just want to get to the end. Years ago, it was Christmas Eve, and we had bought a car for my daughter. She must have been 5 or 6, one of those little kid cars. And of course, it came with instructions. But I don't listen to instructions. I kind of visualize it. I know exactly how it goes together. So what I found was, I'm putting this together, and it had those axles. I don't know if you've ever seen these. It's a metal axle, and then on the end of the axles, it has this little cap that you bang on, and it's a one-way cap. Once you put it on, that's it. So, of course, I wasn't reading the instructions. I go put the wheels on, and then I go to assemble the rest of the car, and guess what? I messed it up. I didn't go in order. I skipped a step, and the step was to put the axle through the main frame of this car. Now I couldn't get the axle in because the tires were already on and the caps don't come back off. I was too far down the road. I didn't wait. I didn't listen. I didn't have a plan. All I did is just jumped right into it. And this is step number 6. If you haven't listened to the podcast, The Ultimate Success Map, step 1, step 2, 3, 4, 5, go back and listen to those. You can't just start at step 7. Step 7 is action. That's like taking a gun. What do you do with a gun? Ready, aim, fire. If you just go to the action piece, all you're doing is firing, then ready, then aim. It doesn't work very well. Now you might be saying, Thor, look, I don't want to go through all the steps. All I want to do is just get to the action. Let's get going. I'm impatient. Well, can you act without going through those steps? Sure you can. Do you need to know your outcome before you start acting? No. I've done that in my life. Didn't work out very well. Can you start acting without having an effective plan? Yes. Doesn't work very well. Can you act without addressing your belief systems? Yes, you can. Doesn't work very well. These steps are there and they're in order. A couple of years ago, I was sitting making some notes and I was working on this very topic. I wanted to find out what the secret was. What was the formula? What was the map that I needed to follow in order to produce consistent, successful results? And I was in the bathroom and I took my notes and I threw them down on the countertop. And I looked in the mirror. There were some notes there that said success should be as easy as ABC. But it was interesting. In the mirror, it was written backwards. It was written CBA. And I said, interesting. Wonder if what I've been looking for all along has been right in front of my nose, but I haven't been able to see it. Just like my nose. It's there. I see it in the mirror, but I can't see it when I go to look at it unless I'm staring in the mirror. The ultimate success formula, if you notice, is nothing more than FEDCBA. A, B, C, D, E, F, backwards. So please make sure that you understand this system and this map from the beginning. You've got to start out with figuring out what you want. And then, of course, progressing through the steps from there. Each one is extremely important. Speaking about steps and how important things are, before I do this podcast, I go through a checklist, making sure my equipment's all right, making sure that the environment is okay, making sure that my systems are working, making sure that everything is aligned and correct. And it's interesting because the last thing that I do, the second to last thing I do is a prayer. And that is, Lord, give me the ability to reach someone in the audience today. Whatever my message is, allow that to reach at least one person with significant meaning. And then the last thing that I do is I read a statement that this could be my last podcast recording ever and do my absolute best. After that, I generally have to pause for a moment because it may be true. I have no guarantee that I'm going to wake up tomorrow. So every time I get in front of this microphone, I go through a checklist, I follow a system, and then at the end, I ask myself or tell myself that same statement. This might be my last podcast ever. Give it everything I have. Hopefully that feeling, that emotion, that passion comes through. Okay, this episode's a little bit longer than the other ones, but this is an extremely important step in the process. In addition to action, there's a couple other things that I'd like to mention as well. One is this action has to be consistent. It's about doing something every single day. It's about building a habit, building a muscle. So you must act on whatever you're trying to get to. The actions have to be consistent and they have to be every single day. I go to the gym 7 days a week. I no longer have to think about it. It's just who I am. Now, if you noticed, I didn't say that these steps or these actions had to be massive. The actions, you have to take massive action on your goal, but each of the individual actions can just be small steps. It's not about going from A to Z or eating the entire elephant in one bite. It's about taking little bites, right? That's how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Well, that's how you knock out your biggest goals and your biggest objectives in your life. You've got to tackle it every single day. A little bit done every single day is incredible. Darren Hardy wrote a book called The Compound Effect. If you haven't read it, read it. It's amazing. And it talks about if you do something consistent every single day, it starts to compound upon itself. And it's so true. You know, when I first wrote this, action was the A. And I realized there were so many other things that fit into this category as well. Because this is really where the road or the rubber meets the road. And that is asking for help. If you need help, delegate, leverage, ask for help. Accountability. We've talked about it before in earlier sessions. So important. You've got to hold yourself accountable and you have to have someone holding you accountable. You've got to be able to adjust and adapt. Things are going to change. Situations are going to change. Now, I want you to stay focused on your outcome and your goal, but you've got to be adaptable, adjustable. Things are going to come up in your way and you're going to have to zig, you're going to have to zag, and you're just going to have to keep going forward. The landscape is going to change. Applaud yourself. Just another word for celebrate along the way. I have a gong that sits behind my desk. And every time I finish a podcast, I go over there and I hit it. And I celebrate. One more down. Celebrate the little things. Attention. How easy is it for our attention to be split? We have so many things coming our way. Emails, notifications, cell phone. For the last 20 years, I don't say never, but I very rarely answer the phone. Why? If someone is calling me, the chances are I did not have in my calendar at that moment answer phone calls. So why should I interrupt what I'm doing, what I'm working on, to answer the phone? Now, it may be a loved one, it may be a very important phone call, but a lot of times you will not get me. It will go to voicemail because what I'm doing in that moment is what I scheduled, what I'm focused on, and what I'm committed to getting done. Let's talk a little bit about the action. It is so important that you stay focused on what's directly in front of you. When you put on your GPS system and you're following those directions, are you concerned about what you have to do in 15 minutes? The second, third, fourth, fifth turn in your directions? No. What are you focused on? You're focused only on the next move. When you're executing, when you're taking massive action, focus 100% on the next step. Now, do you still have in your view what the overall goal is? Sure you do. But I'm not focused on step 5, 6, and 7. I'm focused on what has to happen right now. For my birthday last year, I had the opportunity to go to Porsche America and participate in one of their driving experiences. It was a 911 S4, beautiful car. And you had a professional driver sitting in the passenger side. And one of the skill sets was going through what was called a kick plate. So you're in this incredible machine. You give it gas. You start heading towards this area that is covered with water. And as soon as you drive over a certain section, something pops up either on the right side or the left side that pushes your wheel in one direction. And it throws you into a spin, an uncontrollable spin. And this surface beyond where it's where it's wet is really polished, smooth, slick concrete. I mean, you can't keep the car straight. And what happens is, as soon as that occurs, you have to act. You've got to act fast, you've got to act decisively, and you've got to make a commitment one way or the other. And if you don't, you go into an uncontrollable spin until the car decides to stop in about 25 seconds and about 100 feet somewhere in a direction that you did not intend. So be aware. Things are going to come up. You've got to act quickly, decisively, and just move forward. Now, is your decision going to be right 100% of the time? No. That's why we're taking massive action, not little action. If we're just taking little action, well, then we make 2 decisions during the day. If one's wrong, you're 50% wrong. You've got to be taking massive action. Some of the stuff you're doing is not going to work. That's okay. It's not all going to work, but most of it will. The important part here is we're forming habits. We're forming the muscles that when you wake up every day and you go through this system and you have an early morning success ritual, which we'll talk about later, you're up early in the day and you're focused on what you're doing and you're taking massive action. Once you've figured out the other steps and you followed those, remember you can't just step to massive action, your results are going to be dramatically different. How important are actions? In 2000, I had the opportunity to create my first company. I had the opportunity to either run that business from Atlanta or go back to New York to run it from there. My office would have been in World Trade Center number 2 on the 105th floor. That used to be my office. In August 2001, I was in the World Trade Center 5 times visiting the team that worked on my account. Thank God, September 11th, I was in Beaver Creek, Colorado, and was not in New York. Unfortunately, many coworkers, close friends, and one that happened to be my best friend was located in the World Trade Center that day. I have many friends that got out and some that did not. And each of their stories of the ones that survived tells a tale of action. When the first plane hit the North Tower, many of my coworkers decided to get up and immediately leave. They took the stairs or they could even take the elevators. It didn't matter. The World Trade Center was broken up into 2 sets of elevators. One that brought you to the 86th floor, which was known as the Sky Lobby. And then from the 86th floor, you would go up to the 105th floor in another set of elevators. It didn't matter which route you took. There are 4 sets of stairs. You could take any of them, or you could have taken the elevators. Then it got to a point where you could not. Many people were located on the Sky Lobby when the second plane hit, just below them. Many of them didn't survive and didn't get off that floor. Several, though, did. Now, remember I told you there was 4 stairways. 3 of them were completely blocked, on fire, and the stairwells were gone. Only 1 exit remained, and that was one of the stairways. Now, this stairway was filled with smoke, and you had a choice. You could go up, you could go down into the unknown, or up into the unknown at that moment as well. But you had a choice. Those people that went into that stairwell and went through the smoke, not knowing what was ahead of them, but just kept going, made it out alive. Those that went back upstairs did not. Everyone took action that day. Some decided to stay at their desks and continue to work. Others got out early. Others decided to get out too late. Some had no other choice but to jump. The images that you saw of people jumping were from our floors. We were the office above Cantor Fitzgerald, which was very popularized in the news of losing really their entire firm because everyone stayed behind as they were trading stocks and bonds on the international market. But everyone that I worked with that day made a decision. Some froze out of fear. Some moved based on fear. But it's their actions that eventually led to them either surviving or not surviving that day. Because if you don't take action, it's also a form of action. Sitting on the couch, overeating, not going to the gym, watching reality TV, those are all forms of action. And those decisions and those actions are going to have consequences down the road. Just as getting up early, going through your success ritual in the morning, and then following the ultimate success map. That is going to have consequences as well. Thoughts become actions. Actions become habits. Habits build character. Question of the day. Where in your life have you been putting off taking action? You may be afraid. You may not have a clear plan. You may not even know how you're going to get it done. But you know in the depths of your heart that you need to take action, and you need to start taking action now. So my question is, where is that spot? Where is that situation where you know you need to be taking action and you're not? Action of the day. or challenge. Figure out where you need to take action and start moving. Trust me, if you start moving, okay, even though the plan may not be 100% cemented, you may not understand what might be coming, there's some uncertainty, there's some fear, just start acting. When I started doing this podcast, I had no experience, which probably many of you are saying, I know. Quite frankly, it hasn't been that good up to this point. Each time I do one of these, it's getting better, or at least that's what my mom tells me. Act in spite. Just do it. Now, you're probably all asking yourself a question. We're at step 6. We're acting now. What's step 7? Well, of course, you're going to have to tune in tomorrow to find out what step 7 is. But it's an important part of the process as well as all 7 steps are. So once again, thank you for listening. If you're not already a subscriber, please head to iTunes, subscribe. And after you love the show, please leave us a 5-star rating. You can reach us on Facebook, Twitter at thorconklin.com, our web address, thorconklin.com, and our email address, info@thorconklin.com. Pretty simple. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do, and until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.